MLB has a problem, and it's running out of time to fix it. Unlike before though, this latest controversy to rock baseball isn't taking place on the field. It doesn't have to do with pace of play, or sign stealing, or balls. Kind of. What's happening in baseball right now threatens to tear at the very fabric of the game. Literally. MLB has made some major changes recently in an attempt to increase its popularity. From pitch clocks, to bigger bases, to international exhibitions, MLB has gone all out to try and boost fan interest. Now, these changes have arguably worked. In-person attendance last season jumped 9.1%, the highest increase since the 90s. Speaking of the 90s, throwback events like the Little League Classic and the Field of Dreams game have been incredibly popular. Even the Oakland A's, baseball's perpetual dumpster divers, have managed to turn a profit. As far as the major sports leagues go, MLB has done a pretty good job in recent years. Not amazing, but good. Except, that is, in one important aspect. And when players reported for spring training this year, there was no more ignoring it. Major League Baseball has run out of pants. For the first 100 years of the sport, baseball uniforms were fairly, uniform. Until the 1960s, really, most teams wore white at home and gray on the road. There was some variety, with pinstripes, collars, and the occasional zip-up jersey making an appearance. But baseball, by and large, had one consistent look, and that look was boring. By the middle of the 20th century, though, color television was becoming the standard. Kansas City A's owner Charlie Finley reacted accordingly by making his team more colorful. He drenched his players in the team colors of gold and Kelly green. The other owners followed suit soon after, albeit with less hideous color combinations. Usually. Compared to the first 100 years, the next 30 were an explosion of creativity for baseball apparel. We saw flat-topped hats, a lot of baby blue, something called a tequila sunrise, and the White Sox wore shorts. Sleeveless jerseys appeared, disappeared in the 70s, and then reappeared 2 decades later. The Phillies tried all burgundy unis. They were so uncomfortable that outfielder Greg Luzinski said he'd rather be traded than put one on again. Now, these fashion experiments didn't always turn out as planned. The results on the field ranged from surprisingly good to whatever this is. Either way, the one thing they were certainly not is boring. The uniforms from this era of baseball are some of the most iconic in history. So much so, in fact, that plenty of teams today still choose to wear them as alternates. I used to love baseball uniforms. I still love baseball uniforms, but I'll be honest, the more recent ones that MLB has put out leave a lot to be desired. Over the last few years, there have been changes made, both behind the scenes and in full view of the public, that, in my opinion, have made baseball uniforms worse. So then, where did things go wrong? When Rob Manfred became commissioner of baseball in 2015, he made a promise. Unlike some other sports leagues, Major League Baseball would not be putting advertisements on jerseys. According to Rob, not only was such a thing not happening, but it would continue to not happen into the future. According to Rob. Of course, that all went out the window with the latest collective bargaining agreement. Remember the lockout back in 2022? The one that nearly canceled spring training and threatened to take out the regular season with it? Well, part of the reason that happened was because MLB owners, like Jim Crane of the Houston Astros, wanted to put this on the uniforms. This bad boy is a sponsorship patch. See, why ugly up the sleeve with a logo or a memorial patch, or God forbid, leave it blank, when you can sell off that valuable, profitable retail space to the fine folks at Occidental Petroleum? That's right, from the team that brought you PR successes like Enron Field comes Oxy, the oil company, not the drug. Because when we're talking existential threats to humanity's existence, we don't want to get things mixed up. Look, I get why they put ads on uniforms. I understand the purpose of advertising. I'm not stupid. I'm a YouTuber. The reason that I'm even able to do this for a living is because of those very same annoying, obtrusive ads. Because, for whatever reason, that's the way this system was set up to work. But that doesn't mean we have to like it. And now, on top of all that, we have this. This is a photo posted online on Tuesday, February 13th, of a crime scene. On the left is a Mariners fan jersey from last year, and on the right is the version of the jersey being sold this year. From this image alone, we can already see some major issues. Let's break them down, shall we? Starting from the top, the MLB logo has been moved below the neckline, leaving this awkward blank space above, right here. Because they crammed the logo down here, where it isn't supposed to be, the The letters on the jersey have been shrunk in order to make room. Look at the name on George Kirby's uniform last year, and now compare that to this. We can also see that the jersey colors lack the vibrancy of prior years, which makes them both harder to read and less visually appealing. The base color has changed as well, from white to off-white. It's a small difference, but it still makes you wonder what the point was. If you look closely at the stitching, you might find that it's a lot harder to make out on the new jerseys. The reason for this is because there is no stitching on the new jerseys. While uniforms in the past featured stitched-on letters and numbers, these new ones are applied via heat pressing. Compared to stitching, heat pressing is a cheaper, faster, easier method. It's also worse. The colors aren't as sharp, and over time the numbers will often just peel right off. Heat pressing is also how you end up with creases like this one across the back here, which I'm sure you'll take into account before you pay, how much was this again? Oh, $175. Now, Nike maintains that their new jersey, officially called the Vapor Premier, is a softer, lighter improvement on the previous model. In designing this uniform, Nike claimed to have digitally scanned the bodies of more than 300 baseball players to, quote, dial in the ideal fit. This new jersey, they say, provides 25% more stretch, because my main complaint when I watched baseball last year was that the jerseys weren't stretchy enough. Rob Manfred addressed the new uniform controversy head on. The jerseys are different, but they have been tested more extensively than any jersey in any sport. The feedback from the All-Star game last year was uniformly positive.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I think after people wear them for a little bit, they're going to be really popular. Well, it's been a little bit, and popular they are not. And it's not just Chris Sale complaining this time either. Players around the league have been calling out the new unis for their cheap look, poor fit, and quality issues. As word of their incompetence grew, MLB and Nike put out a joint press release featuring real live quotes from real live MLB players. Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman could barely contain his excitement, calling the jerseys, quote, breathable. MVP Ronald Acuna Jr. said that feeling free in the jersey is the best feeling in the world, which is less a review and more a general statement about clothing. Third baseman Nolan Arenado declared that wearing the new uniform was almost like wearing his favorite shirt. So, there, I think. Now, if you thought the jersey situation was bad, these new pants are, well, they're pretty bad too. Like usual, it's the pitchers who are up in arms. Just ask Yankees reliever Tommy Kahnle, who fans have nicknamed Tommy Tight Pants for his, well... Anyway, Tommy Tight Pants and his tree trunk thighs, besides being the title of a cancelled Dr. Seuss book, are not a fan of these new pants. Up until last season, MLB uniforms were made on a player-by-player basis. They had their measurements taken by hand, which were then used to determine the correct size. This was a valuable thing for someone like Robbie Ray, who tends to like them, close-fitting.
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Stupid sexy
Robbie Ray. This season, though, that's all gone. Done with. There's no more tailoring, which means no more customization, which means no more accounting for massive dumpers like Tommy Kahnle's and Robbie Ray's. That last sentence might have been the saddest thing I've ever spoken out loud. And these are just the ones who got their pants. When the Cincinnati Reds got to spring training this year, they were given pants from 1 or even 2 seasons ago, since the new ones hadn't actually been delivered yet. Consider the Reds lucky though, because these new pants are a lot like MLB's excuses. Paper thin. They also changed the belt loops, from straight up and down to this diagonal pattern, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it's just weird. Which is kind of the problem, isn't it? There was no reason, besides money, for Nike and MLB to do this. The uniforms were fine the way they were before, for the most part, and fixing the stuff that really does need fixing doesn't mean you have to screw everything else up in the process. But that's what they did. The core of this issue, to me at least, is that baseball doesn't seem to understand its own appeal. Sure, it's not the first sports league to let advertisers onto the jerseys, or to make questionable design choices, but I don't know. I feel like baseball should be above stuff like that. Reds catcher Luke Maile compared the new jerseys to toilet paper. You notice the change at first, but after a while, it's just your toilet paper. But, and I say this with all due respect to Luke Maile and the Charmin Corporation, I don't think we should be wearing toilet paper. One of the problems here is Nike, specifically the fact that with MLB now under its control, Nike owns the uniform rights for 3 of the 4 major North American sports leagues. This kind of control is how you kill competition in the market, which in turn is how bad decisions like these are allowed to get made. The other problem here is MLB, and its long-running issue with quality control. Is it the biggest problem in the world? No. It's shirts. Shirts and pants. I guess that I just thought that they'd be able to not ruin one of the consistently good elements of the experience. I was wrong. The uniforms are bad because MLB and Nike wanted to save money. They did this because they thought people wouldn't notice, and then when people did notice, they pretended like it was an improvement. Just because you can make money by doing something doesn't mean that you should do it. Just ask my buddy Ed, who owns 2 Ferraris and 1 kidney. Ask him soon though. He has his eye on a Lambo next.